This video is going to talk about the O in CORE, which is for organize. If you remember, it's collect, organize, rehearse, evaluate. So this one's going to be about organizing the information that you've collected. So after you collect what you need, can you find it when you need it? I don't know how many times as a tutor or an instructor I've sat with a student and they ask a question about adding and subtracting integers. And I'll say, what did your instructor say, or what do you have in your notes? And they can't find anything. So I can bet when they're doing homework and they're trying to figure out how to deal with adding and subtracting integers, they can't find anything in their notes because it's not organized enough to find anything. So note-taking is an important skill, and a lot of us don't use it very often and haven't developed it well. I've seen some students who are phenomenal with note-taking, but I'd say 75% of students just don't really have a good system. So I would encourage you to develop a note-taking system that works for you. I'm going to show you some examples. You don't have to do it this way, but think about how you take notes. This is often what I see when I say, look, show me your notes, and they pull this up. And to be honest, when I took a math class, I just used my scratch paper to do math problems. I didn't really do a good job of taking notes. Mine probably looked like this as well. To really take notes might look like this. So I took the first problem that I came across in ALEKS, which was adding integers, and then I went to the next, and I just kind of took notes as I went along, and this is what I came up with. I think both of these came from one explanation. Then I had a different topic, writing a math expression for a real-world situation. And then next one was about absolute value, and then one was about subtraction. So I have all these notes, and if I was going to try and find something about adding and subtracting integers, if I was looking through here, I'd have to read everything to see it. So the next step would be to actually put topics. If you look in the left column there, there's topics. So if I was looking for adding integers, I could just look at those topics and find something that said adding integers or subtracting integers. If I was looking for absolute value, I could look through that column and find something because I had labeled them. Here, I also included examples because when I write the notes, I have it in my brain what it means, but when I look back at it, sometimes it helps to have an example. So this time I wrote the notes and the topic and the example. To make it even more clear, some sort of highlighter can add a lot so that you can actually pick up on the various things. Now, in the notes itself, maybe I should have highlighted over here in these categories, or some people would highlight the examples because that's how they would look for something. Or you could use note cards. This is typically, when I took a math class, what I ended up doing, because if problems weren't in sequence, I didn't like to flip back and forth in a notebook. I used note cards. So one note card would be about adding two negatives. Another would be adding a positive and a negative. Another note card would be about increasing meaning positive and decreasing meaning negative. Absolute value is a different note card, and subtracting is a different note card. So when I would organize these, I could organize them by topic, and I still have the yellow for actual problems, and then the green is for vocabulary types of things. Another thing you can do is make a summary, and this is something I'm going to ask you to do for each unit. The summary would be at the end, putting all my notes together in an organized fashion. So of the notes I took so far, I actually added in multiplying and dividing because it would be logical to have notes on adding and subtracting integers, multiplying integers, dividing integers. Here I picked my favorite method for adding and subtracting integers, and that's what I used for my notes. I like things that make sense out of things, so multiplying integers, I took the notes in terms of how it makes sense to me. Then I had a separate page where I did definitions, so the vocabulary or definitions that I did a summary of. And that's how I'm going to have you do your unit summaries, is have one thing is going to be definitions, and I gave you specific words that I want to make sure are included, and then another section that is talking about how you go about doing the actual processing or computation of the math problems. The main thing is to find a way to organize that works for you. Otherwise, when you go to study, you might feel like this, just a bunch of stuff that you can't sort through.